Welcome to the Legacy of Love, the Return of the Divine Cosmic Mother, sponsored by New Earth One Network. And I'm your host, Sherry Lynn. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Sharon Wager, and Sharon and we're actually partners in a program that we're both taking together. So I discovered things about Sharon, and she had written a book, and she's a mystic, and she's had so many encounters that are absolutely fascinating. And so I invited her to join me tonight, and we're going to be talking about the pearls of wisdom from the other side, return to love, freedom, and fulfillment. So Sharon had secretly planned her suicide at 19, but she had an extraordinary spiritual intervention instead. After having second thoughts about ending her life, a spirit guide visited her. He took her to the other side where he showed her a past lifetime, the earth in another dimension, and he answered many questions. Everything changed for her in one night. Until now, few people have heard this story. In 2003, another session on the other side with 6 teachers and guides revealed more detailed knowledge and understanding. So Sharon had written her book titled A Divine Intervention, Revelations About Life and Death. Join Sharon and I as we discuss her story, the blissful feelings of unconditional love, her various experiences in both the physical and spirit realms. So a little bit about Sharon. Sharon has been on the spiritual path all of her life. She's a teacher, channeler, and energy healing practitioner. Sharon is a mystical messenger of divine truths, helping people understand life in the physical realm and calming their fears about death and the unknown in the spirit realm. Sharon believes that knowledge with understanding of the mind, body, and soul leads to wisdom, power, and the ability to make better informed choices, gaining balance and harmony for a more joyful, loving, and fulfilled life. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Sherry Lynn. I'm so happy to be here tonight with you.
I'm excited to have this conversation with you, see where it goes. And so I think for me, even the title of our conversation today right away had me, it had already captured my heart. So pearls of wisdom from the other side, return to love, freedom, and fulfillment. And as we're doing this legacy of love, return of the divine cosmic mother, it's so fitting that you and I would be talking about that, the pearls of wisdom. And you gave so many,
Yes, there are many. There are many.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about what led you to want to even write that book.
Wow, that's a long story. It was started, no, I was 19 years old when I was planning my suicide. And earlier, really, I had a really good life. I really had no reason, outward reason why I would want to take my life. Everything seemed to be okay with my family, um, when I was a younger person, there was no trouble. My father worked full time, my mother stayed home. It was really a very nice life. But when I got older, I realized that I had more empathic feelings, and I had no idea what that really was. But it was just all negative emotions, negative feelings. And I love to watch people. That was my pastime.
Hmm.
And how they behave, the actions, and why they were doing what they were doing, and which I think it was a really good um, education for me in the beginning. And I was brought up Catholic and went to the Catholic grade school for 8 years. So I had a routine, prayed for everybody, and had so there. I mean, it had really good foundation. But I also had a spirit guide from the other side, and I just loved doing that because he would come periodically, and he would. It was really the beginning of my spiritual education, all the experiences, and he would take me. We would go fly places and he would tell me things, and we had a really very nice time. So I really knew that that there was life on the other side, and I knew how beautiful it was. As as I did get older, though, um, I was feeling more of the negativity, around me and in the world too. And my father would work all day. My mother she had several terminal conditions and was not well. So my brother had been drafted into the army. It was during the Vietnam War. And I decided I really didn't want to become an adult. But I did have one good experience though with my guide, which I thought is really a fun thing rather than all being bad, is that one time we were flying and we went over like treetops and we got to open fields, many open fields, and all these fields were full of people from the other side. We were on the other side, and they were all waving to us and smiling and saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's so good to see you." And I thought, wow, this is interesting and how nice. So we waved and we said, hello. And when we stopped, I asked him if he knew all those people and who they were. And he just kind of smiled. And he had said, when I was younger, I I prayed every night for other people. And I realized one night that there must be people in the world that didn't have anybody left alive praying for them. So I added them to my prayers. Nobody in particular. I just said anybody that needed prayer anywhere in the world, um, you're included in my prayers. So So he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "Do you remember when you started doing that?" And I said, "Yes, but it was, several years ago." And he said, "All those people." I always get choked up.
Oh, oh,
Ah, all those people wanted to see you because they knew that the prayers had helped them and they wanted to say thank you.
that's so beautiful, Sharon. That's so beautiful. And, I guess that's very comforting for, as this is being aired, it's on the anniversary of my dad's birthday, who has since transitioned. And then even going into Christmas, he transitioned 5 days before. And I know for a lot of people, hearing that prayers and that we really do have this afterlife, like there really isn't an end to us, that we may shed our skin,
Mm.
our body, drop the body, but our consciousness and what makes you so uniquely you and so beautifully special by doing that and being recognized. That's so beautiful. And it's it's validating, but it's more than that because it just shows us that there really is something to us being to humanity, to the heart of humanity, to the heart of us caring for others.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind, especially after that. And it
Mhm.
was so I even cried there.
I,
I thought, I'm on the other side, I'm in the spirit realm, and here I am crying. But it was so heartwarming,
I
and it
bet.
just was so touching that I
I
had
bet.
never even gave that a thought. You pray for people
Mhm.
and you leave it to God and don't think any much more about it. At least I didn't until then. And then so later in life, when things got pretty rough and I wasn't, there was very little joy. My father's father died, my mother's mother died, and there were no other grandparents. Um, my brother was on his way to Vietnam, and there was nothing but negative feelings.
Mhm.
And so when I went to college, I had secretly planned taking my life. I hadn't told anybody about it at all because I know nobody would understand. And so I never said anything. But that night, one night when it was the first semester, I thought I really shouldn't be doing this because my mother was ill. My father was gone all week. And I mean, during the day, he was there at night, but and so I wished I had somebody to talk to. Lo and behold, I went to sleep that night and I thought I woke up. This is how real it was. I thought I woke up and there was a little man standing next to my bed. And he was probably about 4 feet tall. And he had a black suit on, in a white shirt and a tie, very formal, very professional. And he leaned over and he just started talking to me. And I had no fear whatsoever, even though he was in my dorm room. Who are you and why are you here? But I never gave it a thought. And he was talking to me about what I was intending to do. And he knew all my dreams, all my hopes, and my plan. And and he told me that I had taken my life in a past lifetime, and that he kept saying they didn't want me to make the same decision and make the same mistake, really, again, because it took 42 lifetimes for me to get back to the spiritual knowledge that I have today. And I said, wow. I said, and I had believed in reincarnation, but being brought up Catholic, that was not one of their beliefs. But
Mhm.
I had learned about it, and it's made perfect sense to me. And so I didn't question it, but he I said, "Can you tell me more about that past life?" And he said, "I can do one better. Take my hand." And next thing I know, we're back in that lifetime. And we were standing next to a woman at a table with a pistol in her hand. And she was going to take her life. And the odd thing about it is what she did really look a little bit like me. Not totally, but I could see a resemblance. And I thought, oh my goodness. And luckily, he spared me from seeing that. And so she did. She shot herself. Next thing I know, it was like in a blink of an eye. We were in the same room, but there was a lot of people there, and there was a casket. There was on the side of the room, there was a stairway that went up to a second floor. And it was, in olden times, it looked like a Western, it almost looked like Little House on the Prairie, reminded me of that. So the next thing I know, we're on the stairway, looking down at the casket, and sure enough, that was that woman. She had a smile on her face. She looked at peace. She had different clothing on, and her hair had been done. And some people were crying, some people were not. They were just huddled around talking, feeling bad, and wondering what they could have done or should have done. And it made sense, but the whole thing. And of course, being Catholic, I thought, how can I be here in this lifetime? If I did that to myself 42 lifetimes ago, I thought we only live one life. I thought that's what we were taught anyway. And he said, no, 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 it doesn't work that way. And I said, well, what now? And he said, take my hand I have something else to show you. So, so we went, I took his hand. Next thing I know, in a blink of an eye, we were out in in the cosmos, and
Wow.
you could just see all the stars. I mean, millions of stars, and we were flying, but I don't know in what direction or for how long.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, we came to a complete stop, and it looked like the earth below us. So I said, "Is that the earth?" And he said, "No, it's not. It is, it's very similar to earth, but it's in a higher dimension." And he said, "This is where most people will go to first when they pass." And then he explained about how there are many other dimensions and places that people go for different reasons, and and that and that it was. I said, "Is it heaven?" And he said, "No, it's not heaven." And so as we were standing there looking at it, it looked like the blue marble that we see like from the moon. But that's what it looked like. So I started asking questions, and I said, but while we were standing there, it dawned on me that it was like breathing unconditional love. There was like no oxygen whatsoever, no negativity whatsoever. And it was blissful and just so full of unconditional love. I thought, I don't need any oxygen. All I need is this love. So, um, so he answered a few more questions, but then he said, "Okay." And next thing I know, the earth came closer. I don't think we moved, but that earth moved closer. And you could see people. Um, we didn't go onto it, but we were close enough to see people moving around, working, playing, doing things that they loved to do. And some were working, but out of joy. They were doing what they loved to do. And so I asked again, "Are you sure?" I said, "Did I die did I die in my sleep and you brought me here?" He goes, "No, this isn't heaven." He said, "This is where people come to kind of transition to the other levels, and that there were 7 levels, and that there were other levels within the levels, and that um, everybody on the higher levels would help the lower levels, and people on the lower levels within the level would help people below them. So everybody was helping one another, but you could see how happy they were, and they were all smiling and working together. And so I said, "Well, I know this isn't heaven." I said, "But I really don't want to go back. Can I stay?" And he said, "No, no, it's not your time." He said, "Remember, this is an important lifetime for you. And the others sent me to give you all this information so that you would have a more informed decision." And he said, "Yes, you have to go back, but the most important tool on earth is free will and choice." And then he paused and he said, "With every choice, life changes."
Mm.
So he said, "When you go back, you still have that free will and choice. If you really don't want to be there, you can do it. But knowing what you know now and how many lifetimes that you had to spend before you got back to now, that's something that you have to decide for yourself. That's your choice." So next thing I know, I woke up in the dorm room by myself, shaking.
God,
I'm
yeah.
thinking, "Oh my goodness." So I thought, well, it was a pure utopia, what you would think of a utopia. I called it my utopia. But so I wrote everything down as much as I could remember. And It was still early in the morning, but by the time I wrote down I just wrote quick notes because I had to go to class. And I didn't tell anybody about it for 2 years. And I did write things more out, and I would read it every once in a while. I did research on all the different religions, philosophies, theories, and I thought, is this true? Am I delusional? Could this possibly be true? But it felt so real. Even today, it feels like it happened, a couple weeks ago. And then I did come to the conclusion, yes, what he told me was truth. And I just so I knew all this stuff for many years, and I did. This was the late '60s, though, so nobody was talking about anything like that in the '60s. Then it was more Woodstock time, and you know, drugs and alcohol, and nobody's going to listen to me. Who was I? I was just a um, first year in college. So I just wrote it down, and people that I knew were open or would listen, I would drop seeds. I called them my pearls of wisdom.
Just like the
Sorry.
title of this interview. That's beautiful. So can we like pause for a moment too? And just because there's so much that you're sharing and just to go a little more, explore that a little more deeply. For one thing, we're all on this journey, each one of us.
Mhm.
And each one of us kind of forgets, that we are soul. And so you had this beautiful, profound experience that had you really begin to think about the deeper meaning in life. And so it shifted you, and you were talking about the power of choice. And I know that even like Carolyn Mace was one of my first transformational teachers. And she
Mhm.
always talked about the power of choice. And at the time, I remember not really, really getting it. But now, where I am, I understand every single choice. And so, for anybody out there that's listening to us, we have the power to shift, or that we have the power to keep ourselves stuck. We are that
Yes.
powerful, and it really actually there's something I'm going through right now that I'm constantly, because it's something I'm working on. It's one of my life lessons.
Mhm.
It's coming around again, and this time I'm bringing in a bit more wisdom, and so I am constantly checking in with myself and reminding myself that I have the power to shift my thoughts and to change it, because so some of these things that you were learning is what you're going to actually be sharing and you're offering too, is
Mhm.
the importance of why we're here and what some of these, like we're here for more than just this experience of material, of what's out there.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And so you
Oh,
had these experiences to help people.
yes. And to share all of this knowledge. And it was even after that, I mean, I lived by that, those truths. And I had more spiritual experiences on the other side and other subtle things that would happen to me, like synchronicities. And I called them mini miracles and magic almost. And by 2003, I had more questions. So I did ask if I could have another intervention. And I said to answer all my questions. And a few days went by and nothing happened. And I thought, okay, well, it's okay. You know, um, I'll just ask in meditation, see what I get. But 4 nights later, it happened. And it was the same guide that brought me over the first time, brought me over in 2003. But he looked completely different. And I asked him what his name was, and he said, "We really don't have names here." And he said, "It goes by our essence." And he said, "Feel free to call me any name that you want. Humans seem to need a name." So, so I did name him Jacob. And, but he also said that he looked so different. And he said, "Well, the guides can appear to people in any way, shape, or form that they need to see in order to not be fearful, in order to be able to um, accept them. And if they have a discussion, that they will not be afraid and be open to what the guide is saying to them." So he says, "Your experience is completely different from anybody else's." But he said the information, though, um, is an overview of what is, what I'm going to be hearing is an overview of the physical realm and the spiritual realm and the transition in between the two. And he said that it was going to be expanded. So I did actually have 7 sessions with 6 different spirit teacher guides, and each one talked about a little bit different of a subject, some overlapping between the physical and the spiritual, but it was all based on in helping self-awareness and mindfulness and observation and consciousness in order to get to know ourselves better, because it's still all about unconditional love in any and all forms, in every aspect of life. And the more that we can ground love,
I
the
understand the
better our
emotion.
world will be.
Yeah. And you know why the tears keep coming for you? Because I've experienced the same thing. And it's like, my heart can't get any softer. That's because your heart is so pure and so open and so embracing that love that you're talking about. That's so hard to name because on this, in our physical form, it's really hard to define love.
It's a feeling. It's more of an emotion. And he even said that our power is in our emotion.
Mhm.
And look at the power that you have with hate,
Mhm.
especially nowadays. I mean, look at what's going on with the hate and the anger and the power that they have
Mhm.
to fuel what they do with their hatred
So
and their
let's stop there
disconnect.
for a sec. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, but I really think this is important because right now what's going on, and even my
Mhm.
daughter, she's been talking about like, I can't watch the news. I don't want to
Mhm.
because I know that we feed into that consciousness. So if we go into fear, we're only feeding into that and supplying that energy to keep that. And so I don't think people really realize, you just said we're powerful and the power behind our emotions. And so
Yeah.
from your understanding, that I would love for you to go expand on that a little bit more because it's so important that those that are just beginning to seek beyond, that just trying to experience a little bit more of what they're searching for, which is themselves, which is the divine. But really, what is your
Yes.
understanding of that? And so share that, please.
Well, I really think that um, the people that are disconnected from God or from themselves, because everyone has a spark of life of God within them. No matter what they do, they still have a part of themselves is connected to God in the spirit realm. But for some reason, they have lost that connection, or they think they're not connected, and that and there's so many opinions in the world, in so many hurts and traumas and dramas. And if they felt alone or abandoned or hurt beyond repair, they believe is beyond repair, they go to these groups just to belong to something or someone, and to be together. I mean, because we're humans, but we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be with other people. So they have, and we live in duality and polarity. So it's really, um, we're the ones that label everything as good or bad,
Mhm.
right or wrong, and even without any facts. It's how we're brought up, our culture, our traditions, even ancestry. If we're born into a certain lineage, you're expected to be in that lineage and not, and if you don't go out of it any at all or look at anything else, then you're caught in that duality and polarity. And what we're seeing now are the extremes.
Mhm.
But it's this um, the most upsetting part, though, for me, is the collective consciousness, because it all feeds into one, and we are all one, and it is unity consciousness. So talk about prayer. We need to pray for those people, even though they're doing horrible things to other human beings. But I pray to their higher selves, to their, not to them or for them, but to
Mhm.
their higher selves, so that if they in any way, shape, or form they can get some of that prayer or that light and love into them in moments that they may be open,
Mhm.
that it will make it, and I pray that it will make a difference.
I think
Yeah.
that's why your prayer works, Sharon, because you're not praying in fear. You're going
No,
to the aspect of them that is the light, that is the
that's
divine essence of
that's
them.
right. That's right.
Yeah, I get
That's
that.
right.
Even in meditation, when I was, first going on this path and really starting to discover me and the empowerment stage and stuff like that. And I was doing meditation, and I knew that part of my journey was forgiveness, right? And it was part of
Yes.
something I think it is for all of us, right? But so what got me there was in meditation, I would hear the song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and let it begin with me. And
Wonderful.
so I would see that. And anytime I hear about something traumatic, like what's going on right now, currently, and all these children and everything that's happening, I will go and I will hold them. My consciousness will bring that child or that person to me
Mhm.
and embrace them. And so we think we have to, here's my tears that are going to start. We think we have to be like physically in the presence of someone. That's the magic of prayer. That's the miracle of prayer.
Mhm.
It's not, please God, do this, please change this, because that's fear, that's separation, and God doesn't recognize, or the divine, whatever source, creator, whatever the name, doesn't recognize that energy. It only recognizes us as love, and so we have to come from that place, and so we have to raise our vibration and then go into prayer, into meditation. I don't even call it prayer because it's not words.
No, it's not. It's a feeling. It's everything is quantum now too. So everything is, you can do things in an instant. You can bring the power that baby to you. You can
Yeah,
bring, you know, and love it and
yeah,
um fill yourself with the love and the light,
absolutely.
and then radiate that out into the world.
Absolutely.
So,
That
and
makes
you
me think,
and you don't have to be confined either to just the people that you're dealing with, or that you live with, or that, no, you can give it to the world.
absolutely. So it makes me think of two things, the meta prayer and Ho'oponopono. Those two things
Yes.
come to my mind.
Hmm.
And, for those that don't know that, I encourage them to go and research both because they're both very beautiful in ways of healing ourselves, but also healing others.
Yes. I know I say a prayer for the world every day, and that will probably be um, at the end of my webinar that I'm going to be doing.
Which is good because so many of us attach prayer to religion,
Hmm.
and prayer isn't about religion. And that's part of what's holding us back from really seeking, like really discovering who we are as soul, as divine beings.
Hmm.
Because so many of us are living in that fear of even our ancestral wounds and traumas that were unconscious too.
Yes, that's true. And and we carry that. But with the self-awareness and the mindfulness and being able to release some of the traumas and the dramas, the imprints when we are young that they stay with us for our whole lifetime. So and we have forgotten about that, many of them, if we were young enough to have those traumas or dramas, and that imprint will stay there. And when we get to be an adult, we have the triggers, and all of a sudden we're so upset, and we have no idea why. You don't even know these people that that are triggering you. So that's one indication of knowing that there is something deep within you that needs to be recognized and released. And that's what's called shadow work or inner child work. And so some of the book is about that also.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit more about what your offer is going to be. You don't have to pull it up or anything, but what is it that
Okay.
what's the intention, for those that join you? What's going to happen?
Well, the title of the book is A Divine Intervention: Revelations about Life and Death. And I do have there's a softcover book, hardcover book, and an ebook. So the offer is going to be a download of the ebook, and and it's going to be a webinar, but in January after the holidays, so that people can recover from the holidays and have time to read the book. So it will be 2 Saturdays. I think it's the last 2 Saturdays in January in the morning for 3 hours each day. So it's called Seven Pearls of Wisdom from the Other Side. And there's categories about the energies that's involved, vibration, frequency, conscious awareness, consciousness, and and then there's a lot of examples too that will help to explain some of the. There's a couple of universal laws that are covered. The and that'll be probably the first day, and then I'm going to do like an hour for each one with a question and answer period at the end, and maybe a 10-minute break each hour, so that people can get up, move around, settle in or
Mhm.
do whatever. And then the second Saturday, it will be the same time, and it's 10 o'clock Arizona time. I'm in Sedona, Arizona, so it will be Arizona time. So you'll have to check wherever you're at for the times. And the second day will be more about the physical realm, the spiritual realm, the transition between the two, and about observation. There was a lot about nature and what we can observe in nature, plant life and animal life. The animal life, our wildlife, and our pets. And they're one of our best teachers, I think,
Mhm.
of of how to love and how to appreciate things. So And then the last chapter is kind of a wrap up where Jacob talks again, and he talks about the ego, mind, and the heart and the soul, and the differences between them and why each one is important. And the very end, we'll do a meditation connecting to the universal forces of God, so that each person can talk to their guide or to God or to whoever they're comfortable talking to if they have any questions for themselves, looking for solutions or explanations, anything that they want to do.
That's
And
beautiful.
so hopefully I won't get off on a tangent and be able to cover, because they did cover a lot of information.
Mhm. Well, you're going to have them read the book prior to and everything too. So they're going to come in with a bit of
Mhm.
an idea of what you're going to be covering and then probably be able to ask you some deeper questions and stuff like that. But it is so beautiful because I suspect you're going to draw in people who are, well, first of all, the fact that we're going towards Christmas and like I said, my dad transitioning just 5 days before Christmas was very difficult. And so I know that there are a lot of people that are always searching for more meaning to life and more meaning to themselves and the comfort of knowing their loved one who transitioned, they're safe, they're fine, that there really is an afterlife. Which, speaking of which, I remember one day, well, it was the evening, and I woke up with these. I get vibrations in my body when I'm about to get a vision, and it was a banner, and it said afterlife. And so you and I, this is why I'm so drawn to you, is because it was actually about a book, and there is the book of the banner I saw, and it is about how we live. So when we transition, this is important for people to know this too. We transition with our consciousness. We transition, and you were talking about that in the book too, is that
Mhm.
we think heaven, all of a sudden we're going to transition and everything's going to be this blissful, joyful, peaceful thing. And it's like because we're the soul that continues to journey
Mhm.
over and over and over again, we're always learning and evolving, right? And so it's
Mhm.
important that we live our life with that awareness that we are soul,
Mhm.
that we are a spark of the divine, and so that we can truly embody much of that in this lifetime and then move forward with that rather than living from the shadow aspect or the unaware and powerlessness and that kind of consciousness where it's life is happening to me rather than no, I'm going to be the creator my life. And so this is what I see your book and your workshop offering many people is starting to shift their consciousness a little bit around what's my role? Why am I here? Some of these questions that we start to have as we start to long for
Mhm.
something and we're not quite sure what am I
Absolutely.
longing
Yes,
for?
absolutely. And they do such a really good job too, I think. And the importance of those triggers and those imprints and to going within with our self-awareness and our choice and choosing to to work on yourself so that you can the more we release, the more light can come in,
Mm,
because it's like we're in a container, and it's like a bottle of water, and the bottle of water just stays the same and can stay stagnant until you or even if there's a plug in it, you pull the plug, and
yeah.
some of the old stuff, you just release it. You let it go. It's like all of a sudden you decide, gee, this isn't really that important anyway.
Mm,
Maybe it's even petty. A year from now, is this going to be important? A day from now, is it going to be important? And will it change my life? And if the answer is no, then pull that plug and let it go.
yeah.
And then more light and love will come in to replace it.
And you literally feel that in your body. You begin to feel like
Mhm.
you're buoyant and can like expanded
It's
and feel like you can lift off. And so you talk about energy too, don't you? Do you address the chakras and everything too? So people that are unaware of,
um, vaguely. I don't go into a lot of detail, but they are mentioned,
okay,
in the meridians and
yeah,
the chakras and
yeah,
and the energy system,
aura,
even
yeah,
even the heart, because we're an electrical being.
yeah,
So the it goes into electrical shock, and and when we're a fetus in somebody's body, and all of a sudden the heart starts beating
isn't
like
that
that,
amazing?
and it's like a miracle. Well, that's your divine spark. That's
Mhm.
the spark of God. That's the spark of life. And so the heart, and you're not really alive though until you take your first breath. So
Right.
that's why they call it the breath of life. And
Yeah.
when you are stressed or anxious, the best thing to do is to take a nice deep breath, because it will
Mhm.
help ground you, and it's the breath of life.
It is.
It'll help you to release whatever tension you're holding.
And even more than that, if you want, like if for somebody who is longing for connection to source creator divine, when you become
Mhm.
aware that that breath breathes you, like we don't
Mhm.
get to choose when we're going to take our last breath. There
No,
is
we don't.
something that is sustaining us and making everything function within our body, and there is more to it than what I love is science and mysticism or spirituality or whatever it is are like literally coming together and backing each other. And all these people
Mhm.
like even Alexander, and there's so many people, I can't, they're not coming to my mind right now, but have had so many profound experiences with
Mhm.
near death experiences and stuff like that that can come back and share with us. And so you had, wasn't near death, but it was still an experience that was had you, kind of reminds me of that before Christmas, where he goes and views all the lives and all the way that it's impacting other
Mhm.
people. And it's that's how powerful we are. And
We are.
eh, you know, like
Yeah.
it's not, we're not just separate from everybody. We really are influencing
Mhm.
everything around us.
Yes, we are. And it's I call it my conscious near-death experience.
Yeah, that's, I can see why.
I know. Well, I was planning on it, but they sort of gave it to me without having to die, which I
Which is
am very
good.
appreciative of. But it's yes, and it's when the energy is one of the first things that Jacob goes into,
Oh,
and he does.
your voice went. Went. You literally just started on us. So your energy is your voice just went away for a second, but you're back.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jacob, though, when he begins his energy information, knowledge, I should say, he does say that Shakespeare is right, that we are playing a role here,
Mhm.
and that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that and it begins with a spark of life, the spark of God. And then when we take our first breath, we enter life, and we will stay here until the till the heart stops,
Mhm.
and the breath stops. But the
Mhm.
breath, they can put us on a ventilator. But
Right.
when the heart stops, and they use the electrical to charge the heart, to get it to beat again too. So everything is very scientific, really, and all of the organs and all the parts of the body all work together. The mind is amazing with all the things that it can do. And the body, I call it a medical miracle, with
Mhm.
giving us subtle signals to keep us well. But I would say the book is really more about the soul and the connection that we have with ourselves, with God, and how we can make the most of our life
Mm.
with joy and love and freedom to be ourselves and to have meaning and purpose in a fulfilling life.
See, that's why I brought you on here because I so agree with you. We are soul, and if we only realize that, it changes everything. And I
Yes,
read that in
yes.
your book where about Shakespeare and
Mhm.
I can't remember. There were many things I read that I was thinking I was going to ask you about, but I did, it's okay. I love where we're going with this conversation and everything. And so you did a beautiful job with your book, and I know you're going to do a beautiful job with the workshop and everything. And so is there anything else in the workshop that you forgot to mention, or anything that you would love to share? I know actually there's something coming to me that I'm going to take us off track a little bit because I know you just attended a conference um, with Daughters of Heaven,
Yes, I did. Daughters of
and
Heaven in Sedona.
that's I feel like you're one, and I know when I heard those words, I cried because it's just you don't see, that's the thing, and that's why you came to tears and I come to tears so many times, and so many people do, is this inner recognition that the mind we can't explain. We don't know why we're
That's
feeling
right.
it, but it's just something surfaces and comes up and bubbles up and is like emotion. And so you said that
Hmm.
earlier. What did you say about emotion again? What was it you
But
said?
our true power is in our emotions
Mhm.
that we can. I mean, look at the. So I always tell somebody if they're having a downtime to think of, try and think of a time in your life that you were so filled with love you thought you were going to burst. It could be when you got married or your first kiss or your first baby was born or or anything else. You get to stand by the ocean for the first time. That was me in January. And and just feel it. Just take the time to feel it and just immerse your entire body in that love. And it will permeate every cell within your being. And then you'll start to radiate it out and you'll glow and you'll go
Mhm.
outside and people are saying, I don't know, some people have said you're glowing today. I said, I am very happy.
Aw, see, that's so beautiful. And you know what just came to me too is like our heart, the way of the heart sort of is the mystical path to the
Hmm.
sacred. And it's you don't have to go anywhere for that. It's just opening our minds and being curious and watching what's happening in life and around us and being mirrored back. And, some are beautiful reflections coming back and being in awe and wonder of things that most people don't even take time to notice. Like, a leaf that is opening up or a little insect and just watching with the eyes of a child. So I get there is that saying like you would probably know a bit more about that than me, but to enter the king, I can't remember, but you have the eyes of the child. Like we bring the child back, and it's more like the divine child because we heal
Hmm.
aspect of the wounded child.
That's right. And it's like the eyes of a child are the eyes of wonder. And
Hmm.
why is this the way it is? Well, I
Hmm.
was like that when I was a little kid. Why? My mother, she'd give me an
Probably
answer.
drove her
I'd say,
crazy,
why?
hey?
I drove her crazy.
I see, but that's another important thing is parents. I was just talking about parents the other day too, because children that are being born are going to be born so much, it was so much more wisdom and knowing and remembering than we ever did. And so for parents that aren't connected, it's so important because I have heard of parents where their children address them as the guardian
Hmm.
and they're aware that they're from a different planet and their real parents are a different planet and they have conversations with them in different language. And these parents, there's actually a doctor who's working with these parents trying to help them, like, because they know their children are so much more expanded in consciousness than they are. But that's what's
I
going to
know. I
happen.
think that, and that's just absolutely wonderful. And they really need it because their children are just so open, and
Yeah.
but they are coming in with even way back when. I think it was maybe the 70s or 80s. Maybe it was the 80s. I was working someplace, and of course, everybody knew I was the odd one out.
Yeah. That's
And
good though.
but I wore it like a badge of honor,
That's good.
actually.
And
But
and you should.
um, so she had a little boy. I think he was 4 or 5 years old, and somebody in the family had died, and everybody was very upset. And the little boy came to his mother and he says, "Why is everybody so upset?" He says, "Somebody so and so died, but he'll come right back with another body."
See,
And
there's
that
so
threw her for a loop because she hadn't even heard about reincarnation or
mhm.
anything like that. So the book does deal a lot with reincarnation too.
Yeah, which is, you know, I highly recommend that people join you during your workshop for those 2 days and read your book. And it's obvious to me that as we're talking, your experience is just as vivid, just as real, just as powerful today as it was many, many, many years ago.
Yes, it is actually. And that's part one of there's two parts in the book. Part one is the first chapter is about the only chapter that really is about me, about why I felt the way I felt, and it has the actual intervention. And then the rest of part one is the information, the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom that was given to me. And which is just fascinating. And at the end of each session, they asked if I had any questions, but most of the time I said no because they did a pretty good job of relaying it to me anyway. But there was one thing though that did make a huge impression on me was that they told me that I had memory. I had some memory of being on the other side, and the perfection and the joy and the unconditional love that was there. And that's why I was having a hard time because I couldn't understand how people could be so mean and miserable or criticize and judgmental, and there was so much hardship here, and I was just having a really hard time with it. And that's why I wanted to go home. I didn't
Hmm.
want to be here. So that helped me a lot. That helped me a lot. But then part two, though, of the book are 18 personal spiritual experiences that I have had that I really believe confirms much of the information that they gave in part one of the book. So some of them are not very long, they're very subtle. There's a few of them that are pretty profound
Hmm.
that I know, and I had just one man reviewed it. I'm so happy and lucky and honored that I've had several 5-star reviews on the book. And one man started out his review, whether you believe her or not, this is still information that he felt could it kind of pulled the dots together, because a lot of this information people I think understand, but this one fills the gaps
Hmm.
with a lot of things and
Hmm.
answers questions.
Right.
Another person who reviewed it said it was like a spiritual guidebook. And so I
It
thought,
is though. It is. As I was reading that, that's what struck me too. And it is beautifully written and explains so much. So, I don't know, Sharon. I thank you for being willing to take all the notes that you said that you were always so detailed and meticulous, and you knew that a part of you must have known that you were going to do this, and you're a teacher, so you've always known that, even though you might not have consciously known that. And so that's the thing too, even the one review that you were saying that the man said, when we're shifting in consciousness, we don't have to believe everything right away. Like,
No.
I remember the word God used to scare me. And now I I think it's so beautiful and sacred. And I am beautiful and sacred, and there is an aspect of me that has that in me. And so where did that come from? That's just a
Hmm.
shift, a slow shift in me, and just like everybody. So it's just being, and maybe that's the importance of the child, is the willingness to be curious, be open.
Yes, yes. And they do say, um, and I do say in the book too, I use word that God or divine or source, but
Mhm.
um, I've been told that there are 72 names for God, but God is that essence of the divine,
Exactly.
the force, the universal force of God.
Mhm.
And and they say that the information is not based on any religion,
Right.
or any culture or tradition or anything that anybody could um, think that it was a religion or anything like that. And
Mhm.
it's really kind of matter of fact type knowledge, but with understanding, using energy
Mhm.
and vibration and frequency is how everything functions in the world.
Mhm.
And I call it the unseen world with my
Mhm.
unseen friends.
Yeah, but you probably feel them. Like, and everybody has a different, sometimes people can see if our vibration hits a certain, then we're in a different dimension because our vibration has shifted. I know even
Mhm.
mediums and that stuff like that, they will say, if, oh, I have, I hope you didn't hear that. I have my dog and my daughter's dog that were just kind of going at it, I think. So anyway, I lost my thought. Shifting our vibration enough to actually connect with their loved ones. And so again, speaking of love, we have to go into that place.
Yes. And some people, I mean, they come in with a higher vibration to begin with. So some people that like the psychics, they can shift just a little bit and
Hmm.
and see that other world and give us, but they're still looking through their own veil.
Hmm.
So uh so there's always a grain of salt. You don't have to, and I say, even in my book, if it doesn't resonate with you, just take what resonates and leave the rest. And
Exactly.
then maybe pick up the book in a couple years,
Hmm.
3 years, read it again, and and more will make sense
And
because
that's
we're constantly growing.
exactly. And that's what's exciting too, as you start to witness these changes and you see the empowerment stage and stuff and almost the liberation and stuff where you sense like, wow, I now
Yeah.
see something from a totally different lens and I
Mhm.
can't go back you just don't go back. You might at the beginning waver back and forth, but you can see it through a different lens and that feels better. And so it's like, I choose to see it through that lens, through love.
Absolutely. Yes, and you can always go back and apologize. You can
Mhm.
always go back and say, forgive me. I knew not what I was doing. And
Mhm.
it's like, and I did the best that I could do at the time,
Mhm.
but I'm seeing things differently now. And I'm sorry, and
Mhm.
that will make all the difference in the world. But one of the
Mhm.
major lessons too was learn these lessons to, because if something triggers you, it will continue to trigger you until you
Absolutely.
learn why,
Right.
until you release it and let it go. But it also, because our soul is cumulative, the more lessons we can learn in this lifetime, the the higher our vibration will be, and the more knowledge and understanding we'll come back with in the next lifetime, if that is necessary.
Mhm.
So it's like what did I call it? Like an incentive program.
Mhm.
It's an
Mhm.
incentive program for your future. Not
Yeah.
only it could be for this future while you're here today, or for your future lifetimes. It
Exactly.
because the sky's the limit. There's no limits, and we can dream and do and be whatever we want,
Mm.
as long as we have the awareness, and be present in the right in the now. Be present with who you're with. Be present with your feelings and your honesty and your communication.
Mhm.
And it's all a journey. It's a journey within. It's a spiritual journey within,
Mhm.
and an inside out job, I call it.
It is. And I feel like that's a beautiful place for us to stop and say, like this is an inner journey, and you could be a beautiful guide
Mhm.
to those that are drawn to your offer and curious and open and wanting to explore and find out more. And I know you're beautiful. I know I adore you. I love you. And this is why I wanted you to be part of the summit with me. I knew that you have the biggest heart and a lot to share. So
Well, and
I
that's why
thank
I agreed, because I feel the same way about you.
uh thank you.
Yeah, I'm very honored to have this opportunity to share uh, my experiences, and to be with everybody, and help other people have their aha moments and wake up calls, and kind of connect the dots, so
Mhm.
to speak.
Be amazing with that. So, from my heart to yours, I thank you so much for saying yes to me and sharing your sacred journey with us. And I send all of the viewers love, peace, and blessings. And Loren, I thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. So, I say bye for now, everyone. Okay, we're back. So, I don't know if some of you noticed this when I was having a conversation with Sharon. I said there's something going on with my dog and they're going at it. Well, my dog, she's a puppy and she's a really big puppy. And she had just had surgery, had been spayed. And my daughter is staying with me. And I think she felt bad for my puppy being locked up in the kennel and let her out. Well, she has a really big dog too. And they started fighting. And so, of course, it was really hard for me to stay present and hold space for Sharon. And so what happened was I ended our interview, our sacred conversation, very abruptly. And that didn't sit right with me. So I wanted to invite Sharon back. So she had a chance for final words like everybody else has had. So, Sharon, I welcome you back and I ask you, do you have any final words for us?
Well, thank you, Sherry. I do appreciate the opportunity. And yes, I do have some final words. And I just want to thank everybody for their time and for listening, and for delving into self-awareness and consciousness, and and trying to see the higher side of life, the love, the support, the everything that people that are around you do for you, to be grateful for what we do have, instead of worrying about what we don't have. And like I'm looking forward to the webinar. I hope I see everybody there. And my the first guy, Jacob, he said that the most powerful tool we have on earth is free will and choice. And with every choice, life changes. So I hope you have time to think about that. Think about how many choices you make every single day, and think about consequences of one choice over another. It really will make a big difference. And there was another quote I would really like to say. I didn't talk about it earlier, but they said conscious awareness increases knowledge. Knowledge increases understanding. Understanding increases wisdom. Wisdom increases the ability to change your mind, your beliefs, your perspectives, all of which changes your life, all for the better, hopefully. And to return to love, love of self, love of others, being yourself, and honoring yourself, following your dreams, and bring heaven to earth in your own personal life. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. Life isn't perfect, and we have challenges every day. But it's in the challenge that we grow and we learn more about ourselves. Excuse me. And it's in the conflict that we really grow, because we catch ourselves once we're self-aware. We catch ourselves thinking, oh, this is the way I always respond, but now I know a different way, and do it differently, and watch and see what happens. It may seem magical or mystical, but you'll see a change in yourself and others, and how you treat yourself and how you treat others and how they treat you.
So
So
beautiful.
I hope I guess my greatest hope is to help people become more aware, and to calm their fears about death also, the and of the unknown. And that's fear. It's something that we've always grown up with, and if we don't know, we're not open. And I think once you become more aware, you'll become more intuitive and more trusting. You'll have more faith in yourself, so that whatever happens, you know that you can handle it. And even if you have to ask the divine for intervention, they're only a thought away, and they will be there. When you read, when you read my book, if you read my book, the very last story, I think you'll get a good kick out of. It's funny. And they came to my rescue. They came to my rescue in 5 minutes. So it was faith and trust in yourself and your abilities, and how powerful you are, how powerful you can change your life and change the lives of others that are in your life. So I am thankful and I'm grateful that you're all here and giving me this opportunity to ramble on a bit.
That's okay. We all ramble from time to time, but the words were beautiful. Your message was beautiful. And so, one final thought that I'm going to ask you as we come to an end. Sharon, what is it that you want your legacy to be?
Well, not so much my legacy, but the book. I would like the book to be a legacy, that people could read it and understand the physical realm, the spiritual realm, and the transition in between, and the tools that they give, and the understanding and the wisdom that they give from the other side. It's not me. None of that was me. It was all them. The only thing that was me are the stories afterwards that I feel confirm that information that they gave me. But the whole part one, other than chapter one, is only them. None of that is what I think or believe or anything like that. It's all their understanding and their teachings.
Beautiful. Well, I thank you, beautiful Sharon. I thank you for being my partner in our beautiful training together. And I thank you for saying yes to this beautiful sacred conversation. And I thank you for saying yes to writing that book, taking the time and pouring your heart out and your, everything into that book. So I can see that it is so, you were so drawn to supporting people with that. So for that, I thank you. And once
I
again,
thank you too.
you're welcome. And one more time, let's do this again.
Okay.
I send you and all of the viewers love,
Mhm.
peace, and blessing. Namaste, beautiful ones.
Namaste.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.